Hey, welcome to Real Estate Happens, the very first and longest running real estate show on the web. I'm John McQuilkin. Thanks for tuning in. A question I get asked a lot is Beverly Hills a good place to live? And I think the answer to that is kind of obvious. Yes, it is a very good place to live if, and this is the caveat, if you can afford it. Beverly Hills is a very, very expensive place to live. But for those who have the means, the schools in Beverly Hills are fantastic. Now, most people in Beverly Hills are probably going to opt to send their kids to private school, but you do not have to, as the schools in Beverly Hills are ranked very high. The schools in Beverly Hills are very good, but most just send their kids off to private school because they want them to be associated with other rich kids that go to private school. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's one. The schools in Beverly Hills are really good. The other thing about living in Beverly Hills, especially if you live in the flats of Beverly Hills, we call the flats the area south of Sunset Boulevard. You can walk to all the restaurants and cafes and bars in Beverly Hills, and that's a big plus. And let's face it, Beverly Hills is some of the best restaurants in the world. And I'm not putting down your neck of the woods. There are great restaurants all over the world, but there are really fine restaurants in Beverly Hills. So if that's your cup of tea, if you like spending a lot of money on a really good meal, then Beverly Hills is one of the places to be. What about shopping? Well, of course we have Rodeo Drive. Some of the best shops in the entire world are along Rodeo Drive. Now again, it'll cost you, but if you're living in Beverly Hills and you can afford it, then shopping on Rodeo Drive just kind of comes with the territory. So we have the shops, we have the restaurants, we have the school district, which is a great school district. Those three things alone make Beverly Hills nice. But then the other thing is, Beverly Hills is not as congested as the rest of Los Angeles. I mean, if you're talking Hollywood, Hollywood is just crazy right now with congestion. With Beverly Hills, not so much. We get a lot of tourists that come through. You see the tourists behind me. But other than that, Beverly Hills in the really expensive neighborhoods, you hardly even see people walking their dog in Beverly Hills. Well, I take that back. Their dogs are getting walked, but the nannies and the employees are walking the dogs. The streets are like a ghost town in Beverly Hills. Another plus about living in Beverly Hills is they have their own police department, so they respond rather quickly. There are parts of Los Angeles where you call 911 and the police might show up 30 minutes later. Not so in Beverly Hills. They are very responsive. Again, they have their own police force, so that gives you a feeling of safety living in Beverly Hills. Overall, the crime rate in Beverly Hills is not that bad, but I made a specific video about crime in Beverly Hills, and I will link it at the end of this video. Another thing I like about living in Beverly Hills is its close proximity to just about everything. Beverly Hills is like 20 minutes away from wherever you want to go. The ocean, Santa Monica, Venice Beach, just 20 minutes away. Hollywood, West Hollywood, just 20 minutes away. Downtown Los Angeles, maybe about 25 minutes away, depending on traffic. It's centrally located, so it's a great place. What about the San Fernando Valley? Well, we have a lot of options to get over to the San Fernando Valley from Beverly Hills, and depending on traffic, it might take you about 30 minutes these days to get over the hill into the San Fernando Valley, should you want to go there. Back in the old days, it was a quick 20-minute drive into the valley. Another plus about living in Beverly Hills are the parks. There are parks all over Beverly Hills. They're kept clean, they're kept green. This park you see behind me is just a wonderful place to hang out on a Saturday, Sunday afternoon. But there's plenty more parks. And there's plenty of hiking trails in Beverly Hills going up into the hills. That's one of the things I love about living in Beverly Hills. Yes, Beverly Hills is a good place to live if you can afford it. Now, another question I get asked a lot is Beverly Hills safe? To find out if Beverly Hills is safe, and it may just surprise you, click on this video above. Well, that's it for today's show. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to have another show for you real soon. I promise you that. So until then, take care, everybody. I'm John McQuilkin, and I'll see you in real estate.